Hello, in this video I'm going to talk through a key tip for A-level history students to help them get to the top level of the mark scheme, thinking about something that A and A star students tend to do, a key skill to really push on the essays from mid-level to top level and help them really stand out. So this video, the idea for this video came from a comment that I got on the channel. Somebody said, is there anything that only exceptional students write in their paper to catch the teacher's attention? Something out of the box. And I thought this was a really, really interesting question. What is it that top level answers do? And obviously, top level answers have mastered the technique, like it says here. So, got good structure, using precise evidence. They are analytical throughout, and they've got a clear, substantiated judgment. But the next step, so say you've got those things and you're still trying to get to that top level, is really thinking about breaking down the question and providing a nuanced answer. So we can call this or this idea the kind of hinge words of the question, what the analysis is really focusing on. So really identifying the key words in the question and breaking them down, and then using that breakdown to really get to a nuanced argument. So we've got some examples here that I'm going to go through. So the importance of hinge words. So here are two questions from Edexcel A-level history, and they're both from the same paper, the Russia paper 2. And what I would like you to do is just have a look at these and identify what are the hinge words in these questions. What are the key words that your analysis should be focused on? So if you want to, you can pause this and you can try and identify them, and then I'll reveal. So hopefully you've identified them now. The hinge words in these questions, hopefully you got it right, are these. So I'll go through this. The first question, Tsarist government in the years 1894 to 1905 was fundamentally similar to Tsarist government in 1906 to 14. And the next question, the Tsarist government was transformed in the years 1906 to 14. So in the first question, the hinge words are fundamentally similar. That's what your analysis should be focusing on and should be thinking about consistently throughout the essay. In the next question, it's the word transformed. So in both cases, for both essays, you should clearly define these words in your introduction and then use that definition to inform your line of argument. Okay, so for the second question there, the idea of transformation, you need to be thinking about, what does transformation mean? How am I going to be assessing whether the Tsarist government was transformed or not? So again, it could be unprecedented, it could be widespread, it could be long term. That could be a way of breaking down that word transformation. So let's get into this in a little bit more detail. So for the question there about whether Tsarist government in 1894 to 1905 was fundamentally similar to Tsarist government in the years 1906 to 14, a mid-level answer might provide something like this. The student might write, overall, Tsarist government 1894 to 1905 was similar to Tsarist government 1906 to 1914 because government remained the same in structure and continued similar policies. So hopefully you can see that is a judgment. The student has reached a judgment, and they've substantiated that judgment. They've said why they have decided that the Tsarist government was similar, but they haven't used the word fundamentally in the judgment, have they? They've just said, yeah, they were similar, and this is why. So that's decent. They've done what they need to do. They've reached a judgment, and they said why, but they haven't got into this idea of fundamentally similar. Okay, so this is something that you need to think about. So here's the definition of fundamental. So this idea that it's forming the base from which everything else develops, and there's some examples of how it can be used there. So on a base level, were the governments similar? Were they fundamentally similar on this base level from which everything else develops? So a top level answer might look more like this. Overall, Tsarist government 1894 to 1905 was similar to Tsarist government in the years 1906 to 1914, but not fundamentally similar. This is because, while similarities remained, such as, and then you could give an example, there were changes to something else. So that's a more nuanced answer, isn't it? So we're kind of getting into what does it mean to be fundamentally similar. So this idea that you could argue they were similar, but they weren't fundamentally similar. So this is something I think you need to think about if you want to get to the top level and ensure the examiner really rewards you for that developed judgment. So in summary, what can you do? You can think about focusing on hinge words in the question, and use those hinge words to create a nuanced overall argument. So going beyond just like yes and no, really getting into those hinge words. And what you can do in terms of your revision or exam practice is looking at the keywords in past questions, identifying those keywords, and breaking them down to make your overall argument more nuanced. So I hope that's been helpful. Please leave a comment if anything isn't clear, and good luck. Thank you for listening.